Good afternoon, everybody. Today I'm chatting with Leigh Curyer from NexGen Energy. Guys, it's an exciting time to have Leigh on because the company just hit a major permitting milestone with the completion of their final federal technical review. In this interview, we get into what the process looks like for the company moving forward as they continue with their development towards production. And I also ask Leigh what his thoughts on the uranium market are currently and where he thinks it could be heading with all of the recent developments in the world. All right, everybody, enjoy the interview. Leigh, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure, Steve.
Let's start off with the uranium market. The sector as a whole appears to be facing mounting supply risks. Kazatomprom has largely rejigged their customer base to focus on supplying China, while uranium out of Russia is now blocked. Is the supply side of the market able to meet the demand side's requirements?
Quite right, Steve. There's incredible sovereign risk surrounding the current status of what the world's mine supply. About 70% of that world's mine supply is in countries that are experiencing significant sovereign risk or controlled by countries that are currently under conflict. In the Western world, we're also seeing supply challenges with the operating of existing mines, and also they're coming to an end of their useful lives. So this decade or early next. And so the world needs Western world replacement of that mine production, and also given that demand and supply imbalance, additional mines to be coming online. NexGen's Rook One project at 30 million pounds per annum, which will be the world's largest mine, is not going to even replace what is expected to come offline between now and the end of this decade. And when you look at the overall demand and supply gap, the world really needs 2 to 3 arrows by the end of this decade to come online in order to fill that gap. That won't happen. And as a consequence, you're going to see far higher prices for a pound of uranium.
So the last few months has been a bit of a boon for nuclear development, but obviously with that comes rising demand. Do you think that there's any sort of sense of we're going to hit some sort of major supply crunch here in, the next few years, or do you think we're kind of already seeing that reflected in the price? What's sort of your read on that?
Yeah, I think it's in the very early stages, and we're starting to see markers suggesting the fragility of that demand and supply gap. The fragility of supply, that is, demand is incredible. I never thought we'd be seeing tech giants like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, NVIDIA all commit so strongly towards nuclear energy. And so the demand is so robust, yet supply is so fragile. I think it's in the very early days, because when you look at the cost structure of the current mine's supply, it's hovering between $50 and $60 a pound US. Obviously, mining is a very capital-intensive industry and requires a larger premium on the cost structure to warrant the initial upfront capex. So I think we're seeing just the beginning of rising prices. And if we look back in history, back in 2004 to 2008, when the price of uranium went from $7 a pound to 136 in the space of 4 years, 136 in today's terms is about $205 US a pound. And so I believe given that fragility of mine supply, and yet there's such strong robustness of demand relative to last time, I think it's reasonable to expect prices can go in excess of $200 a pound in the future until mine supply does react. Now, when will that happen? I don't think you're going to see that occur until into the 2040th decade.
Okay, so let's transition into NexGen here. You guys last month hit a major permitting milestone with the completion of the final federal technical review. To investors, I imagine that this is a little bit of a check the box achievement, but from your side, I imagine that it's a lot more than that. What specifically did this review consist of, and when did it first begin? And also, I'm curious what kind of costs are associated with actually getting through this technical review.
Yeah, look, incredible milestone. It was the first one in 20 years that it achieved this milestone. And actually the first one to a organization that had no government ownership in Canada. The materiality of it is very significant. Um, in the sense that it is confirming the environmental impact study on the Rook One project at a federal level has been cleared. The next state is going to a commission hearing. Now, the other aspect is we have already been approved provincially by the province of Saskatchewan, our environmental approval. In addition, and importantly, the 4 communities in our designated project area have all signed impact benefit agreements signifying their legal support for the project. In addition, we are aware that the community sent letters into the CNSC requesting an immediate commission hearing date, and with the process to be all concluded in the early part of 2025 in order to meet the summer window for the commencement of construction. It's incredibly significant because we actually started the document, the EIS, the drafting of it back in 2017, over 7.5 years ago. And we started the study supporting the document as early as 2013. So that gives the audience an idea with respect to the colour involved in pursuing such an objective. And it also tells the audience, the barriers to entry are very significant. And so when we talked earlier about the supply side responding, right around the world, mines in general, uranium mines on top of that, are quite involved and complex in order to achieve the milestone that we have just. And it's why we're going to see such a demand and supply imbalance for many decades.
So now that you have this approval in hand, what's the next steps in terms of the process before finally receiving permission to proceed with development?
Yes, we have a commission hearing, and the CNSC will be providing an update on or confirmation as to that date in the near future. And then that is really a public summation of the whole approval process. Our Indigenous communities will be at that hearing advocating very strongly for the project, which they have already done in their impact benefit agreements. And then the Commission will respond to that within 60 business days. And on the basis of it approved, we'll be literally putting shovels in the ground the following week. The project is construction ready. We have all roads being upgraded, ready for the frequency of heavy haulage trucks. And we have the engineering on all the early stages of construction complete. The first type of items that will be getting constructed is airstrip and excavation for the site works, and that team is in place. On the engineering side, we also have the consultants selected, and also internally, we've been building this team since 2017. So respecting the conclusion of this permitting process, we are ready to literally start construction the following week following approval.
Is there any risk that the approval will be denied at the commission hearing?
I don't believe so. There's any risk. Look, this has been a very rigorous process. In November of 2022, it concluded the public comment period, which was the register for all public questions or comments regarding the project. All of those have been successfully addressed. The fact that we have provincial approval, environmental approval as well. And the project has been well publicized and addressed. Every project that's met the milestone that we did recently in having completed the technical review has been approved. So as I said, respecting the commission hearing process, we're extremely confident, along with our Indigenous partners in the province of Saskatchewan, and also federally, because at this stage they're effectively approving the project or endorsing the project themselves, because we have completed the technical review. All key stakeholders are all in favour of the project, and every project that's reached this stage has been approved. So we are very, very confident for those reasons.
Okay, so let's assume you guys get through the commission hearing, approvals granted. Walk me through the construction process a bit. How long until we see the first uranium produced from Rook One?
Yeah, the construction period as per the 43101 on Rook One is 42 months. That's 42 months. And as I said, we are the team is in place. The engineering of all the early stage items of construction is complete, and we have the various firms identified in order to execute those works. In the first 12 months, you're going to see predominantly, as I said, surface works, excavations with respect to the site infrastructure, and then also preparation of the freeze plant, which is actually in a warehouse in Vancouver, in Saskatoon, delivered up to site, and the initial stages of the shaft sinking.
What sort of capital expenditure outlays are we expecting with the development?
It's 1.6 billion US as the construction cost, with a operating cost of just under $10 a pound US. So at the current spot price, you're looking at a payback period of that 1.6 billion US at 30 million pounds per annum production of just over 12 months. It's an incredibly, it's an economic phenom of a resource project, which has incredibly small surface expression. It's actually a very tiny underground mine. We're moving ore of about 1.5 double-decker buses a day. That's all. So that's actually one of the world's physically tiniest mines, but its output will be around 25% of the world's mine supply, probably closer to around 50% of the Western world's mine supply, which is very important to note considering the Russian uranium ban, which has been enacted in the US, which will prohibit the importation of nuclear fuel from Russia. And so this Rook One, NexGen's Rook One project, is poised to play an incredibly important role in the world's global fuel needs.
So have you guys begun the process of contracting out some of your future production, and what do those discussions currently look like?
Yeah, we have and will be providing news around that imminently. It's fair to say over the last 12 months, we've had a very large inflow of inbound calls from utilities, given those aspects which you mentioned earlier affecting the world's nuclear fuel market, particularly around the supply side. And so we've been hosting various utilities up at site and undergoing negotiations. As I said, we'll be providing an update as to that shortly. And those negotiations are going to are on the basis of optimizing the value of every pound produced, and hence we are looking at contracts which weigh heavily towards market prices at the time of delivery. And NexGen will be the uranium company which has incredible leverage to the future prices of uranium.
So when production's in full swing here, is this going to make Canada the largest uranium producing country?
It should actually take Canada back to the the number one position of the producer of mined uranium? Absolutely, even exceeding Kazakhstan based on Kazakhstan's forecasted production into 2030 and after, given that decline, we will be returning Canada to the world's number one position in the production of mined uranium.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Um, so obviously you're having all sorts of conversations, I imagine, along the supply chain, and mining is just one aspect of the uranium supply chain. I'm curious, do you foresee a scenario where Canada begins to take things seriously and pushes the development of more of the downstream aspects of the supply chain?
Yeah, I think that's possible. The US have already begun that with increasing the conversion and enrichment capacity within the US. You're seeing, the Canadian government also strongly supporting nuclear with the development of small modular reactors. Saskatchewan will be one of the first provinces in the deployment of a small modular reactor in the early part of the 2030 decade. And then consequently, the downstream aspects involved with that. You're also seeing in Ontario an expansion of nuclear energy as well. And so to do that, there needs to be an elevation of the downstream aspects of the nuclear fuel cycle. And the Canadian government's commitment towards that is very, very public and strongly supportive.
Hey, Lee, last question for you. If I'm an investor watching the story, or I'm have you guys on my watch list of uranium names that I find interesting, what does 2025 look like? What are those big sort of hurdles I'm looking out for?
Yeah, well, the first one being conclusion of that commission hearing and the federal approval process. Look, it's going to be an incredibly significant milestone for the company, which unlocks construction and T minus 4 years, well, T minus 3.5 years to production. And even at current prices, this will be one of the best mines economically on the planet in terms of the return on capital, return to investors, and done in a manner which is environmentally elite, setting new standards worldwide with respect to the responsible construction and operation of a mine, and socially inclusive, respecting all stakeholders and groups that the project impacts, and ensuring that that impact is incredibly positive. So not only is it going to be an incredible return economically for shareholders, it'll be a stock which they're incredibly proud to own on the basis of environmental stewardship, social inclusion, and also producing a fuel which is going to power effectively the top 5 states in the US population-wise, whilst taking off 70 million vehicles of CO2 equivalent off the road a year annually. So it's an incredible project. There's not one like it on the planet which has that type of economic, social, or environmental impact as NexGen's Rook One project. And the entire team at NexGen is so committed and dedicated to delivering this generational project. So 2025 is going to be incredibly exciting, because there's obviously, with those events and a significant amount of news flow regarding the company advancing to being one of the world's top 10 mining companies on an after-tax cash flow basis. So it reflects all the work that's been done since 2011. It's now materializing very visibly for everyone, and no doubt we'll be on speaking again in the imminent future about those updates.
Well, Lee, thanks very much for hopping on here. I love seeing mining companies have there's the success of obviously the discovery you guys had, but I almost get goosebumps when you say you'll be one of the top 10 mining companies in the world. That's just really exciting to hear. So I congratulate you on all the success you guys have had, and especially with your recent permit. And hopefully you'll keep coming back on here in the future and chatting with us, because I know that our audience loves it when you come on here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd just like to take the opportunity to acknowledge your support for our project over the journey. This is everyone's success. Those who are shareholders, interested investors in NexGen and the story. And I thank you and all of you listeners that are investors in the project, because you're a key component of it. And the successes that we've mentioned and we're about to execute on is also their success as well. And so I thank you all and look forward to speaking to you again in the near future.
Thanks, Leigh. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this interview, please smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. And guys, also let us know what you think in the comment section. Thanks, everyone.